Mark, we didn't see much of you in the film, but we read your wonderful article in The Guardian yesterday and learned a lot about you and Jobriath. Do you both want to, maybe Mark first, tell us how you first came across Jobriath?
Well, I first heard of Jobriath back in about the early 70s, 72, 73, when the first Jobriath album came out. And I heard of Jobriath through, I suppose, reading. Everything then was kind of David Bowie, David Bowie, David Bowie. And every interview that David Bowie ever did, you wanted to hear everything about that was mentioned in that interview, or every name that was ever associated with David Bowie at the time. So, of course, the name Jobriath was being associated with David Bowie. And he was being much maligned in the press as this kind of really being very, very nasty about him. And he was kind of became a kind of a whipping boy for the press, because they kind of wanted someone that they could really kick, because they didn't dare kick Bowie because he would already become an icon and a phenomenon and was changing the whole musical landscape. And Bolan, they'd got a bit tired of kicking. They were starting to kick him because he was kind of on his way down a little bit. But Jobriath sort of gave them an easy person because to kick, because the music press at that time was very, very a lad's domain, really. It was very homophobic and was very people had to be serious musicians and paying all their dues and everything, as it said in the documentary. And so I kind of heard about him through that, really, and I kind of was really instantly attracted to him because he was an underdog and because he was being kicked by the press, and I wanted to know all about him and all about who he was. And so I went to buy an album of his in Liverpool. I went all the way to buy an import album, and it was the most amazing cover. I'd never seen a cover so great as this on an album. And he was really I was seduced by the whole idea of him and the whole persona. And the fact the press didn't like him made me like him even more, made me love him.
Well, first I want to say that, yes, Mark and most of the musicians who are in the film are barely in it because the movie was so long and we just had to keep cutting it down. But we have a really nice selection that we're going to do as a DVD extra, and Mark also did a music video for a cover of Jobriath's Be Still. So you'll get to see much more from Mark if you liked the movie and you want to see more, when the eventual DVD does come out. There's a ton more stuff. So you were asking me how I had heard of him or came across him.
How old are you?
Well, I'm I'm in my 30s.
Okay, so
So
you didn't get Jobriath the first time around?
No, not at all. And I had always kind of heard his. I'm a huge music fan and a huge, I'm very interested in gay and lesbian history. And so I'd always kind of heard his name bandied about here and there, but always as a joke. And I never really took it seriously. And one day, I don't know, about 4.5 years ago or so, I found out that Morrissey had put out the compilation, a few years prior to that. So I said, what the hell, I'll order it. And I got it and heard it and thought, oh my God, this guy is really amazing. There's actual talent here. Now I'm fascinated. Now I want to know everything. And I just started doing research and was absolutely boggled by his story and just how heartbreaking it was and how amazing it was. And I wanted to share it with the world. I wanted people to know not only, what he had accomplished, because it's great that he was the first openly gay rock star, but if the music sucked, and I know it's not for everybody. I know not everybody's going to like it, but not everybody likes everything. We all have different tastes, but I thought it was worthwhile enough to get out there. But like Jim said in the film, it's not enough if you're out and you're gay and you're a musician. You have to be good. Otherwise, this would have been a documentary about like Pansy Division, who's running around making really, Sorry. I was recently exposed to their music, and I thought, you're running around singing about boys in underwear, and that's all it's about, and it's kind of silly, and I don't know. Whatever. I just didn't think there was much talent behind it, but I thought that this was somebody who deserved to be remembered more for the music than for what the story was.
But it is a fascinating story,
it is a fascinating
and there's
story.
More that isn't in the film.
Absolutely.
You were saying that he auditioned, he got really close to being in Dog Day Afternoon, and there's other stuff about the Joe Papp pop star musical. It is an incredible story, but also, can you just tell us about the footage? Because, there is very little about Jobriath out there, but you seem to have found an awful lot.
I think I found everything that exists. I do know of one interview that was done from Manhattan Public Cable back in 1974. He was on a public access show with a DJ named Allison Steele, the Nightbird, who was a very famous New York DJ, WNEW, and she had a weekly show. And she died, I don't know, about 12 years ago or so, and I actually managed to find her sister, who runs a pet store somewhere, I think in Long Island. And I called her up and she said, I have all of Allison's stuff in a storage place, like out in Long Island, but none of it's labeled. And it's all on 3/4, and who's got a 3/4 machine? So it's like it wasn't really even viable for me to even try to get it. But yeah, the interview stuff was something that I didn't even know was in existence. We had always heard that NBC had filmed his gig at the Troubadour. So I had been trying for 3 years to find that footage. I finally tracked some footage down at NBC that nobody knew what it was. I had to pay to get it transferred, and I was expecting a performance, and I get 20 minutes of an interview with Jerry and Jobriath, and 10 minutes of rehearsal, and I was absolutely just thrilled because I think it really shows the dynamic between the two of them. Unfortunately, we don't have much of Jobriath in there, speaking for himself, and so just all you really kind of have is other people's word to go on and Jerry's word to go on. It really was. It really was. He said it was a strange symbiotic love affair, and I really do believe that. It wasn't. Yeah, it wasn't a sexual thing. They definitely did not have a sexual or a romantic relationship, and by all, I guess by all rights, Jerry was heterosexual. We really didn't, discuss it. I mean, I did point blank ask him, and I did believe him. I don't think he would have lied about it.
He was in love with him, I think.
I think he was. I don't think he could acknowledge that either. You
just have to see some of the kind of looks that he gives him, and it's kind of this wonderment and kind of love and obsessive, maybe an obsessive kind of thing, but this kind of really kind of all-consuming kind of love. But as you say, not a sexual thing, but a consuming kind of wonderment and love. Because he was kind of a very much a kind of man-child, man-boy, kind of man-girl kind of person. That that had this kind of ethereal magic about him.
Yeah, one of the interviewees had said that he stayed with Jobriath while Jobriath was at the Chelsea, the first time that he lived at the Chelsea, and Jerry would call, and it would be very much like, your sugar daddy calling on the phone, what'd you do, what's going on, and blah, blah, blah. And they would be on the phone for hours together, and just, it was, very... Yeah.
Mark, could you just give us your impression of the music?
Well, when I heard the music, and I went all the way to Liverpool, I went to the big city, I lived in Southport at the time, and you couldn't get things like Jobriath records and things like in Southport, so I went all the way to Liverpool to buy the record and searched it out on import, and when I got it home, I was kind of baffled at first, because I suppose it was the time of Bolan and three-chord kind of pop stuff and Starman choruses and very kind of easy kind of 70s pop, and I suppose at the first I was kind of a little baffled. It wasn't kind of what I wanted it to be, because it was very musical. It was this strange mix of kind of a Jagger-esque kind of Elton-esque kind of pop, sort of musical pop with kind of musical theatre mixed with it, and 70s rock, and guitar solos and things like that. So I think as I've got older and I got an older musician, the music kind of grows with you, and over the years I've become to kind of love it a lot more, and it's become the two albums that he made. I think I really love, and I really understand them, and I think it's taken me kind of like a good wine, years to kind of mature and to really love those albums and appreciate those albums and him and his life that was behind those albums.
Morrissey, I approached 3 times and was turned down 3 times. Whatever. Elton, you know what? I never was able to get to Elton. We tracked him a little bit, but it just didn't work out. And I did approach Thurston, and Thurston wanted to listen to the albums on LP. So before he talked to me, so we're still waiting for him to do that. Everything that I got helped. I mean, I largely financed this on my own, and it was a labor of love. It was something that I wanted to do, and thankfully was able to do, and am still doing. But every little bit that everybody did, I mean, helped. I can't say where things went, because everything went and is still continuing to go to getting this done. I mean, I just shelled out money for more press stuff and more marketing materials and stuff, and so I don't. who knows when it's going to end, and who knows if I'll ever see any money from it. But that's not why I did it. Look, Jerry may have his fantasies about what's going to happen with Jobriath. I think we all can probably suss out the fact that this is a niche artist, and I don't really think that if the album got re-released tomorrow, it would shoot to the top of the charts. Will money come back to Jerry? Yes, it will. Jerry does control the publishing for the music, so he will see some money for that.